Welcome to Zonie Living. Today's guest will surprise you, fascinate you, probably shock you, and most definitely inspire you. She will also help us tap into our own intuition. Kiersten Hathcock calls herself an ordinary mom who was making children's furniture in her garage when life got strange. But most people who hear her story would agree with me what's happened to her in her past decade or so is anything but ordinary, and Kiersten is no ordinary mom. Kiersten has ventured into the world of celebrity, the paranormal, and unsolved crimes, mostly against children. She is sharing her compelling story now, her memoir, Little Voices, How Kids in Spirit Helped a Reluctant Medium Escape and Heal from Abuse. She joins us now in the middle of her book tour. Welcome, Kiersten.
Thank you so much. I am thrilled to be here.
It is so wonderful to have you as a guest. I've been wanting to have her as a guest for so long. Congratulations on your book. Congratulations on your book tour. I want to talk about how your star has risen so many times, and it's been fabulous to watch. I want to tell everyone that you are an entrepreneur, a self-taught carpenter, an incredible storyteller. Your memoir is a page turner. It's absolutely brilliant. And you're also highly intuitive with psychic abilities, which you didn't know you had.
I did not. No.
And now you're using them as a gift to help people and to help detectives solve crimes. So let's talk about how this all happened. Let's go back to 2011 when you were making children's furniture in Los Angeles.
Yes, that's a full story, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a crazy life journey. No one thinks they're going to go from carpentry to psychic mediumship.
First of all, I think it's fascinating that you taught yourself to be a carpenter.
Yes.
And tell us why.
So we had moved to Los Angeles in 2004. And at that point, I'm struggling with what most moms struggle with. I want to spend more time with my kids, but I also want to bring in an income and I want to have a career. So I am desperately figuring out, okay, what can I do? So we moved to LA for Scott's job, and I basically just started looking around.
Scott is your husband.
Scott's my husband. Did everything I could in terms of, figuring out, well, I could nanny, I could do marketing work, I could just piece things together. And I did that for a couple of years. Then we got to the point where toys were everywhere around the house, and sure. I was, looking on the market trying to find a toy box that I thought might fit with our style, which is very mid-century modern. And when I looked online, there was one. That was it. So at that point, I thought, wait, this is A, too expensive. We're not going to buy this. B, I bet I could do this. I bet I could teach myself if I just Google it. If I look online and see how to build furniture.
If I just Google it.
So, it's one of the craziest things I think I've ever done, aside from everything else that we're about to talk about. But it was that intuitive hit that I had. It was kind of this quiet knowing. It was very calm that said, yeah, do it. Go for it. So I started building furniture.
A circular saw.
Mm-hmm, I
did. So how old are you? 30s?
Yeah, I was 33,
I wouldn't know what a circular saw was.
Yes. I really honestly didn't have a lot of experience in that world. My dad was a football coach. I grew up in Ohio. He built a lot of our furniture because we didn't have a lot of money. So I was around him. I could see him using a table saw and that type of thing. But I didn't, I bought a circular saw, I bought a jigsaw. I wasn't gonna, hold out. I was holding out basically for the table saw because it would be a lot more expensive than the other saws.
And you have to have a place for a table saw.
Right,
yeah.
Yes. So I just, I tinkered around. I started building. I put it on Etsy. It was very new, if you know Etsy.com
sure.
At the time. I built a website because I had a marketing background. So I built a website. And over the 3 years from like 2007 to 2010, it blew up. And I had no idea it was going to blow up the way it did.
Well, it's funny because you say your first toy boxes, I think they were, the first ones you put out there, you said were a little rough.
Oh, yeah.
And when you mastered that skill, you went back and told those people, here, take this one instead, and went back to those people, some of the early ones that purchased one.
I did. I felt so bad.
That's incredible.
I mean, I did not know what I was doing. I really didn't. So the first year, I basically just said, here, I'm going to give you a second toy box at year one because I've gotten a lot better at carpentry, and I wanted to make sure my customers were happy. And I'm really glad I did that. That's kind of how I've operated in my life. If mistakes were made, if things were, faltering, I look at that and I say, okay, I'm going to do this.
I so respect that. That's so amazing.
I honestly credit my parents. They're amazing. Ohio Midwestern values. You work hard.
There's something
you're
about
honest,
that Midwestern
right?
thing,
Yes.
isn't there?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I ended up basically growing this business out of our garage called Mod Mom Furniture, and it ended up going everywhere. It wasn't just Los Angeles. I was selling to people in New York. I was selling to people in Canada.
Just from Etsy.
Just from
Amazing.
Etsy, and then also my own website.
Okay.
And slowly it got to the point where I was building 3 a week, and that was kind of my cap. I couldn't build any more than 3 a week.
Yeah.
And I was still able to stay home with my kids. I was selling to celebrities like Matthew McConaughey and Christina Applegate. I was very lucky.
So fun.
Very lucky.
A couple of my favorites.
Yeah. I know, right?
Yes.
Good people, good
Right.
families. And I was still, again, at that point, kind of blown away by what was happening, also knowing I needed to scale the business. So I was just talking to my dad casually one day, and he said, "Did you see that show called Shark Tank?" Now, this was when it first started.
Sure.
So it was 2010 when he was telling me about it. And so I looked into it, and my initial thought was, no, I'm not going to do this. This is terrifying. Like, I'm going to fall flat on my face in front of millions of people. And then I kind of sat back, and again, that quiet knowing, that intuitive gut feeling said, no, you should do this.
So brave.
So I did.
Yes.
Yeah. So I did. So I went on Shark Tank. I ended up with 2 offers, one from Robert Herjavec and the other from Mr. Wonderful.
Kevin
O'Leary.
Right,
yes,
right.
thank you. And I ended up choosing Robert Herjavec for my shark. But things did not work out with him afterwards. It was interesting because I was fairly naive. I thought that what was happening on screen was going to happen.
These guys are big business people.
Yes.
So you could never, I expect to be brilliantly walking into this situation. I mean, there's a lot of homework to do.
A lot.
And so when they made you an offer.
Mm-hmm. So they made me an offer, and I basically chose Robert because it was a better offer than what Mr. Wonderful had given me. And I went home, and I was so excited, and I'm kind of jumping around our living room because I wasn't allowed to tell anyone else about it other than Scott and the kids. And I wait, and I wait, and I wait, and I'm not getting a call. And finally, I reached out to the producer of Shark Tank and said, "Hey, I haven't heard back from Robert yet. I'm not sure why." And
how maddening.
Yeah, it was a little, again, like that feeling you get when you know something's not going well or will not go well, that like sinking feeling in your stomach, that's what I was getting. Yeah. So I knew that this was not going to be a good thing for me.
That you waited.
So basically we got on the phone. He did finally call me, I think 2 months later, and said, "You know what, I think you're still a little bit too small. Why don't you come back in a year or so?" And I cried. I sat in the kitchen and I cried.
Very human
response.
And
I'm sure I popped open a beer or something, and cried some more into my beer. And then I thought, no, I have done this on my own. I have built this company. It's internationally known. I turned away retailers from 17 different countries.
Wow.
Before I went on Shark Tank.
Unbelievable.
And so I thought, no, I can do this. I'm just going to keep going. It's fine. I'm not going to reach back out because I don't feel like he's my obviously he's not my partner.
Good for you.
So I ended up I plowed forward, and an angel investor out of San Francisco called me one day out of the blue. And he said, "Did that deal go through? Because I just watched your episode on Hulu and I want in."
So this was a rerun that he saw.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So I ended up with an amazing angel investor, and my segment still airs all over the world for Shark Tank. So I have the best of both worlds.
So what I love about this message here is even if you don't get the outcome that you think you want, there's a ripple effect for just putting yourself out there. And certainly this has happened again and again for you. Yes. More awareness, more exposure, more people contacting you. Mm-hmm. That's just fascinating.
Yeah. And, honestly, it was one of the first lessons for me. I think I grew up very insulated. I have a wonderful family, Midwestern. I trust what people show me. So I trusted that Robert was going to come through because he made that offer. And I showed him nothing different in the tank than I did, after the show. So I just figured this is real. And I think in that moment, it was really one of the first lessons for me as an adult in discernment and in understanding that things don't always look the way you think they're going to look.
And why wouldn't you think that? You know,
Right?
why wouldn't you
Right.
expect that somebody their offer was
Yes.
gold?
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah,
Amazing.
I know.
Well, I want to slow down a little bit. So,
Okay.
so Kiersten has had this amazing career with her furniture, but also I want to talk about what was happening while you were making your furniture. So your kids are off to school, you're in your garage, you're building and creating and doing your thing and very focused, and things started happening.
Yes, things started happening. And I want to back up a little bit and just say that, you know, being from Ohio and being very grounded, I didn't believe in any afterlife necessarily. I believed in God. I believed, you know, I didn't know about mediumship. I didn't know about psychicness. I'm very scientifically minded. I trust research and data.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, it just goes to show you the amount of research you go to
Yes.
through building your business, through teaching yourself a craft. I mean, you don't just believe that you know everything. You go check it out.
Absolutely.
So when things start happening to somebody who's very logic based, what goes through your mind?
It throws you.
Yes.
So I would be in the garage and I would be working and I would see nails move across the workbench on their own. And naturally in LA, I'm thinking, do we have an earthquake?
Earthquake, for
right? So I'm going
sure.
to every single logical reason for this prior to everything starting to ramp up. So in the beginning, it was kind of small like that, right? Where you can dismiss it. Then it got to the point where I'm hearing, Mom. And so I would, you know, I need to run in and see what the kids need. And then I would get inside and realize that they were at school.
Whoa.
And again, I'm still kind of looking like, I wonder, it's probably somebody outside,
Right.
just a window open or something. But it became so overwhelming. I started seeing kids, mostly children, in spirit, walk across
So you
the
would
living room.
you would see this visually. Okay.
Yes. And I know for many people, you know, we all have intuition, right? We all have these gifts. Some of us are dialed up a little higher, I think, naturally. But I think we can all hone them. We can all develop them. And for many people, you will have that sense that either you're being watched, which I had,
Okay.
but also you'll see things out of the corner of your eye. And that's how it started for me. So I
Okay.
would see a child out of the corner of my eye. And then when I would go to look, my conscious brain went, nope.
You're not seeing
You
this.
don't believe in this.
Right.
So yeah, it ramped up to the point where I finally started to realize this is real and I need some help with this. And I need to figure out, you know, what I'm going to do. Because they started coming in and giving messages to me and saying, please, will you reach out to my mom and dad?
Now, did you feel like they were talking to you? Okay.
I did.
And they had messages and they would direct you who to talk to.
Yes. So one of the first kids that I talk about in the book, his name is Nate, and he passed away when he was 13. I know his parents from my high school, but we weren't very close. Like I knew them enough to be on Facebook together, but that's it. I did not know that they lost their son. He died of an aneurysm, basically, an AVM in his brain.
Okay.
And I'm just scrolling through Facebook and I see a message about his memorial. And I'm looking at it and all of a sudden he shows up next to me. And I'm, you know, at that point I'm still questioning everything. Like, is he really here? Am I making this up? Is this in my head? What's happening? But I decided I'm going to go ahead and trust this. I'm going to just trust it and go with it. So I got a pen and paper and I started writing down his messages. And then I actually put him away for a couple days because it terrified me. I wanted to help him, but I also was terrified. I don't want to hurt his parents.
Absolutely.
I would be the laughingstock of Defiance, Ohio, you know, as well. Like I don't want to hurt my family or my business. And to put that out there was terrifying. But I finally had that, again, quiet knowing. I'm in the garage, I'm working on a toy box, and I just had this sense that I am supposed to do this. And it was very
If
clear.
I'm remembering correctly, you write that letter, you put that letter in your book about reaching out to his parents.
Yes. And so I ended up reaching out to them on Facebook. I reached out to his mom, Denise, and I'm actually going to see them this week, which was amazing.
Oh
We're
my
doing a book
gosh.
launch event in Ohio, in my hometown.
Oh,
so I'll see them.
congratulations.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
So we're, you know, the thing about trusting, I even knew who to trust, right? Initially, like, who am I sending this to? Denise. That's who I knew I needed to send it to. not John first. John was the father. So Denise and I talked on the phone. I shared the messages. They said, there's no way you could have known any of this. This is not anything you can Google. It's nothing that, I would have ever known to even guess. So I passed those messages, and a little bit, 4 years later, I think, I had also started a nonprofit of my own that helped highly intuitive children.
Mm-hmm.
And I reached out to John, Nate's dad, and I said, do you mind sharing just what your experience was? Because I'd like to actually post this on the website, because it helped them tremendously to know that their son is still around them and,
and that's
guiding
the
them.
point, is when these children talk to you, it's to bring closure to the family.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So, the messages, he still passes messages to this day. I shared a few more messages recently with his, with his mom and dad, and was able to, he knows when he's supposed to pass a message, right? So
you don't call him
she
in.
needed that. No, I did not call him in. No, I never have.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Just show up when they want to show up. And, over the years, I've learned that I will just, as long as I'm not in the middle of an interview or a meeting or something,
Hold on, I think everyone would understand.
Excuse me. So I have had to say, okay, honey, I promise I will get back to you tonight. And
so
they wait on
it's
them.
striking that your world is all about kids. It's about your
All
kids.
about kids.
It's about kids' furniture, and it's about little ones that left the planet too soon.
Mm-hmm.
So would you please read
Yes,
an insert?
I will.
There was one I especially liked in the prologue,
Okay.
and it is just gripping. But this is such an amazing introduction to what your life was like.
I thank you for asking me to read that. Okay, so Prologue, 2011. You're close, but it's the big one, she said. Her tiny voice rang clear and sweet, as though she was standing in front of me. It had been a few months since the little blonde-haired girl whose name started with a C began communicating with me. In my mind's eye, she looked to be no older than 8. No one else could hear her or see her, but for some reason, I could. Walking over to the tallest tree, I asked in my mind, "Are you sure it's this one?" "I'm sure." Out of nowhere, chills ran up and down my entire body. I welcomed the familiar sign of confirmation. Standing in the hot sun, I surveyed the ground beneath the 100-year-old tree as beads of sweat ran down my back. Readying myself, I leaned the shovel against a nearby tree and pulled my blonde hair back into a ponytail while I stared at the spot. As a self-taught carpenter and furniture designer, I was used to manual labor, but this felt different, harder. My hands were sweaty as I thought about the weight of it all and what I had to confront to get to the truth.
So as you were digging, you got directed to this tree.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit of, where was this? Where was this tree? How did you get there?
So this tree was in the backyard of a good friend of mine.
Okay.
From growing up in high school, and she actually lived in the Midwest. And I noticed that when I was visiting her, and this is all around the same time that everything was starting to come together for me and I'm starting to hear and see things, I visited and my toes would be pulled on at night while I was sleeping.
And that to me is so bizarre.
Yes.
Like you were feeling physical reactions.
Absolutely. Eventually, I came to learn that this child was trying to communicate with me. And she was telling me that she had been murdered by pedophiles. And so I thought, okay, I need to first talk to my friend Kelly and figure out, is this crazy? Does she have any history on the house? Could this have been a house, that a pedophile group had inhabited years ago? And because she was telling me it was back in the 70s. So I went down my investigative road and I started talking about, looking at all of these things and telling Kelly about it, and decided one weekend I was going to fly up there and I was going to start digging because she was telling me there was evidence beneath a tree.
And was there? Did you find it?
We did. We did end up finding evidence. And, unfortunately, I can't share a lot of details about that case.
Understood.
And, that is the unfortunate part about that piece,
So
of my
Was
my
that
line of
kind
work.
of the start when you realized you could help families, you could help detectives. And did that start in LA? Was that?
It was,
Okay.
yeah, it was in LA. It was shortly after I talked with Nate. And so I'm really grateful for Nate, who is the child, from my hometown, because it gave me the confidence to move forward. And it gave me the confidence to trust what I was hearing as these other children started coming in. But I noticed that the theme, many of them had been either sexually abused in their lifetime or had been murdered. And, that was shocking to me. And I just kept thinking, well, is it because I'm a mom and I make kids furniture and I'm goofy? And, I don't know, maybe that's why they want to talk to me. It wasn't clear for 2 years why they were coming to me.
So I think it's important to note that there are no graphic details about any of these stories that you've helped bring to light.
Right.
Right. But I also think it's important to acknowledge the human side of you. I mean, how hard is that to be hearing these stories and to have an intimate relationship with these people and these children and their families?
I was in tears, and I still am in tears, honestly, to this day.
So you never get hardened by this?
I think I wouldn't necessarily say it's hardening, but it's probably, I could equate it to what a doctor would go through.
So
or
there's
a detective.
boundaries.
Yeah.
So you learn to create boundaries.
Yep. And I would learn to sort of put my detective hat on and then record the details of what they're telling me. And I would see them, feel them. I kind of have all of what they call the clairs in the psychic woo-woo world.
You've had to learn this whole other language.
I've had to learn all of it, yes. But I have all of it, and it all sort of comes together at one point. And sometimes each child is different in how they communicate with me. One of the first things that I noticed was that if they were strangled, they would show me that they were. I would start to feel that. So I did have to say, honey, thank you for showing me. But can you maybe show me out here and not, because it's it's terrifying, right? And that was the hardest part, I think, was dealing with all of the feelings and, of course, being a mom and just a human in general. These stories are horrendous. I didn't want to know that half of this stuff happened in the world.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of us know it's out there, but we don't want to think about it. We don't want to dwell on it. And this you couldn't get away from.
No, I couldn't get away from it.
Unbelievable. So you started helping people solve crimes.
Yes.
And you met a detective, longtime New York police detective, Mark Pucci.
Yes.
And he wrote a beautiful foreword in your book, and it's just so packed with credibility. So tell me about Mark. Tell me about how this started.
So I met Mark, it would have been 2014. And it was after a friend of mine reached out to ask if I would possibly volunteer as a medium to work on a missing persons case. And he then, on his side of the world, because I was in Flagstaff, he's in New York, he volunteered to work on it as well. And I remember the day that we spoke on the phone, because they connected us, and he said he was very open to mediumship and intuitive information. And I think, he credits his intuition for helping to save his life in multiple scenarios as an NYPD detective, right? So I instantly felt comfortable with him, but he's also not, he's smart. He's not going to give any detail away. So he basically said, okay, why don't we do this? I'm going to do boots on the ground investigation. You find out whatever you can, from your mediumship, and then we'll reconvene. And we actually did reconvene in New York City in a diner. And we sat across from each other, and I brought my little folder, and he brought his, and we opened them up, and the information was the same.
Wow.
And
you just arrived at the information from different paths. Unbelievable. Well, I want to brag on this a bit and read this excerpt that Mark Pucci wrote. And it says, Kiersten was unlike any other intuitive medium I had spoken to through the years. She explained to me that she has recently discovered that she possessed certain abilities that might assist investigators in finding missing persons, and that she was simply looking to volunteer her time because she cared and just wanted to help. And when I spoke to him recently, I asked him about how you were working together, and he credits you for saving his life.
Which... yeah.
Powerful.
Yeah. It makes me tear up when I actually, hear that.
The impact. Well, I don't want you to go into too much detail, But at that time, you were guiding him,
Yes.
right? And you were
Yes.
were you using a pendulum at the time?
Yes.
Okay, so
when
tell us about that, because
Yeah.
I know you've had to learn all this
I did.
this new world.
Yes, there's a whole world out there.
But tell
full
us
of
about how
tools.
this works.
So there is well, it kind of looks like a necklace, and you can use a necklace. Sometimes I use this necklace. And it's called a pendulum, and it has a crystal on the end of it.
Okay.
And so when I first started opening up to all of this stuff, a friend said, why don't you try one of these? Because you can literally get answers, yes and no. You can pinpoint locations. You can do all kinds of stuff. So to this day, I still use it. It's a great tool to have in your pocket. Because for me, in that particular case, I was able to find the location of the dumping ground. Unfortunately, this case involved organized crime. And
scary enough. And I want to mention how dangerous this work is just in general, because you're solving crimes that people had long thought weren't going to be solved.
Right. Yeah, it is. And that's why I'm also I'm careful, I guess, about how I talk about this stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so the investigators have to be. So I'm sorry,
exactly.
I interrupted.
No, that's okay. So I ended up basically finding a location. There were a few other details that came in. And one of them was ethnicity. And also, I think there was a sign.
Ethnicity of the bad guy? Okay. Okay. So he knew what to...
Yes.
You warned him about what to look for.
Exactly.
Okay.
So Mark decided, again, he trusted his own intuition after he had all this information. I called him. I didn't know he was going out to the site that day. But I called him in the morning and I said, I don't know what you're doing today, but I just need to tell you that you're in danger. And I am scared for you. And I know that you really, really, really need to be careful. And he said, that's wild because I'm about to drive out to look at this location. So he drives out. And sure enough, this man pulls up, and he is that ethnicity that I mentioned. And Mark has said that, he was doing everything. This man who pulled up in the car was showing all the signs that a cop would recognize, right? He was leaning down like he was going to pull a gun. And so he knew immediately that was the danger and that was the person. So then he was able to show his gun and posture and kind of get the jump on him before he got the jump on Mark.
So with all the details you were able to give him, plus his own experience and his intuition.
Yes.
And he says you definitely saved his life.
Yeah, he said that he hadn't been in that type of a situation in a while because he was retired and he was doing mostly private investigator work. And he's, that's something that I think if you're in it every day, you're probably more attuned to it.
Sure.
So it wasn't a shock to me that Spirit was coming in and they were saying, warn him because he needs this forewarning, Yeah.
Well, I want to go now into another direction. So while this was all happening, and we're talking, what, about a 10-year span?
Yes.
When your life was just pinging in so many different directions. One of them was your home life, which of course, would be understandable with so much of this going on. So during this highly unusual time, you and your husband, Scott, were going through a separation.
Yes.
And I can't imagine, anybody who has done this, and you speak about, explaining to your children what heart-wrenching. I understand that completely. And then another man came into your life. And I think this makes so much sense when you talk about going down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Can you take us into that area a little bit?
I can. And I do want to kind of back up and say, it took 2 years for me to understand why those children were coming to me. And it was around that time period where we were separating and that man came into my world that I recognized and started to have my own flashbacks of sexual abuse by my uncle that I endured when I was between the ages of 3 and 6.
And you had somehow blocked this for
totally
30 years.
Blocked it, completely blocked it. I was raped by him at age 5. There were a lot of
heartbreaking.
Oh my God, right? And it took a lot to wrap my head around that. I still didn't want to believe it,
And you say a distant relative.
Yeah, distant uncle.
But somebody you obviously trusted, your family trusted. Terrifying.
Terrifying. And, on one hand, the good news is that it explained why the children were coming to me who had been abused and killed by pedophiles. So I understood that piece. I thought, because I'm such a doer, that, I'm going to go to therapy. Check. That's done. Okay, I'm good now.
I love that. 3 weeks, done.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm good. I'm
Yeah.
healed. And I didn't understand all of the subconscious wounding that happens when you are a childhood sexual abuse survivor. And, 80% of your behavior is driven by your subconscious, all of us. And so here I was in the middle of this, trying to think that I'm healing myself from what I had just learned. I'm dealing with all of these cases. Scott and I, marriage is hard, right? We had been through a lot in our first 18 years.
Absolutely.
A lot of ups and downs. And enter the picture a man who just literally swept me off my feet. And he knew exactly what to say. And he talked about being an abuse survivor too.
Which I'm thinking was not true.
Right. No.
Okay. So he knew all the right buttons to push. He knew what to say to open your heart and to gain your trust.
Absolutely.
All right.
And there's so many of these folks out there. I mean, in as evidence, right? Dirty John, Tinder swindler, we're seeing it in the media so much more. But I don't think, and it's one of the reasons why I actually wrote this book, I don't think enough childhood survivors of abuse understand why they replicate the abuse as adults.
And there's so much self-blame for that.
Yes.
Why would I not recognize this?
Right.
I'm smart enough. I can break this pattern if it's a pattern.
Right.
But so much happens to us when we're that young that we are almost drawn right to the flame.
Absolutely. And, he used a lot of the language that was, in the woo-woo world, right? Twin flame, soulmate, all of that. And it was
you're feeling
almost
vulnerable too.
Oh, very
right?
vulnerable.
Because you've just been in a long-term relationship and it's still an untraveled ground for you.
Yes. I had just lost a huge licensing deal. I lost my job. Literally, it was just...
You found you were just the right breaking point.
Just the right breaking point.
Okay.
So I just went headfirst, not understanding that it was actually little Kiersten that was sort of driving this bus. And, 3 years of abuse, 3 years of emotional abuse, 7 tries to get out of this, right? Shaming myself, thinking, I'm a medium and I work on cases that involve abuse. And I work on cases that involve predators.
Yeah, you study this stuff.
I study this stuff.
Yeah.
Yet I had no idea that behind the scenes, he was an absolute predator, an abusive one.
And you talk about the manipulation, the gaslighting, the self-doubt, the self-blame. I liked what you said when you said, all the fighting for what you think you have. So understanding now that you believed something that wasn't really real.
Yeah.
And then it feels real because the grieving also about something that really wasn't real, which is really crazy making when you try to understand what you're doing and why you're so crushed and why this is so confusing. So I think this is powerful stuff. I don't think we talk about this enough.
Right.
And I think if, young people get caught in this kind of pattern early on, that's when I think you speak to those kids.
I do.
Don't you?
I do.
And you present to high school students, and many times afterwards, they'll come up to you and talk to you about this.
They will. Yeah, and I think that's, it took me a while because normally I'm talking about entrepreneurship and Shark Tank and building a business and that type of thing, right? That's how I'm brought in. But it took me a while to get the courage to say, I'm a childhood sexual abuse survivor. And after each speaking event, someone will come up, 1 or 2 at least, and they'll talk about that. A few kids have come to me to talk about being in a relationship with a narcissist or a sociopath, right?
Sure.
Which is what I found myself in. And so I've tried to help, my first question, to be honest, is, do you have any abuse in your background that you know of? Because you don't have to know. You don't even have to have memory of it for it to be driving your behavior, and for you to be seeking out those wounded parts of you, seeking out what this person is.
So confusion really spoke to me, the word confusion. So if anyone is feeling confused, can't seem to figure it out, and realize you're a smart person,
right?
Then what's the next step? Get counseling? Go talk to somebody?
So I think honestly, awareness is the biggest piece. It's understanding that it doesn't feel right, right? So what I found myself doing in those 3 years of abuse, and basically at the end, you find out that he is a sexual predator. He has done this to many, 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 many women, scores of women across the world. And he is that guy that you never would want anyone around. And yet he has been able to do this to so many different girls and different women. And so I tell youngsters, who are dealing with this and trying to understand, like, was that controlling or is that manipulative?
Define this. Exactly.
Right. So I say, how does it feel within you? Because what I started to notice was that I was having physical, intuitive hits on what was going on in my relationship. So let's say I'm being yelled at. And at that point, I'm starting to feel like a buzzing sensation on my right hip. And that buzzing sensation is that, piece that I needed to connect the dots. I'm like, why is this happening? I don't understand. Eventually, I figured out that was little Kiersten screaming and saying, this is not okay, Yes, wow. I felt like drawn to him, but this is abuse.
And what is it that he wanted from you? Was it money? Was it fame? What?
I think in my case, it was
Control?
Definitely more of the money aspect. And also, at the time I was sort of coming up, right, in the industry.
Absolutely.
And he was an international furniture designer as well. And I met him through friends. So there was nothing really to fear. I just figured,
And you talk about you were cautious. Anytime
absolutely.
You're a woman, you're a beautiful woman in business, and you're careful about where you meet and how professional you are and, where you keep that conversation.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I didn't see any red flags until they started happening. But I was already down the rabbit hole at that point. Right. So another thing that I do talk to a lot of teenagers about, because I see this a lot with teenage relationships now, are those signs. What are those red flags? One of them being, he was asking me, or telling me, not even asking me, he's saying, you have a lot of eye contact with men. Do you realize that, Kiersten? I'm like, are you kidding?
So he's feeling very threatened that he could lose you.
Yeah.
And whatever you might bring to him. Because as a narcissist, they're looking for what other people can give them. They kind of are vampires, right? They kind of suck the life out of you until they've gotten everything that they want, including control.
Absolutely, yeah.
So by telling you that you were this awful flirt, you were starting to change your behavior.
Yeah, I would start looking, like we would be at a trade show together and I would just look down because
So you were losing yourself.
Totally losing myself. And, that piece of it happened slowly. And I think that's the masterful part. These guys are mastermind of manipulation.
That the truth? I mean, they're charming.
Yes.
They can be gorgeous. They can tell you all the things you want to hear.
Right.
And yet at the same time, they're eroding your very foundation.
Absolutely. And little Kiersten inside of me, the one that was, abused and had recently found that out, she basically saw him as love because that's what love was to her.
That's what was familiar to her. I do understand that. And that's the hard piece to explain to somebody who hasn't experienced this.
Right.
Because most people would say, well, can't you just get up and leave? Or I would tell him this or whatever. And you're going, I want to, but there's something that's got me hooked.
Yeah.
And you can't, logic, intellectual thinking does not get you out of that on your own.
It doesn't. Yeah. And I think, the other piece that I try and tell a lot of survivors, because I hear from people all the time now, there's so much shame around this. I still feel shame about it. And I'm openly, admitting that and saying, oh my gosh, I still feel shame.
Well,
I shouldn't,
all the things you tell
shame.
yourself, is what part of this is my responsibility.
Right. And I think our society, we shame survivors. Like that's what we do. We're basically saying, we're not asking, well, why is he the way he is?
Oh.
We're saying, why didn't you get out earlier? Why didn't you leave?
And we put the victim on trial.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So a lot of what I've tried to do is just say, listen, it is so complicated. This has nothing to do with your strength to get out of a relationship.
Or your intelligence.
Nothing. And everyone is susceptible to this type of relationship. Everyone. It's just that if you do have childhood abuse in your background, you're even more susceptible, most likely. Sure. But I just tell them that, you're chemically dependent in these relationships.
Good way to put it. Yeah.
And, it's literally like being addicted to heroin. Because the dopamine and all of those biochemicals that run through our body, it's flooding your system all the time. So you actually start to crave it. So when you have the high times and everything is good, you have that rush of endorphins and then you go down into the deep hell, right?
It is a
of the
cycle
abuse.
of up and down.
And then your body gets used to it.
And it explains. It's like a drug. It's like an addiction.
Yeah, it's an addiction. And that is something that I didn't understand either. And it was one of the pieces that actually helped me climb out.
To understand that.
Yep. Because I was shaming myself for not feeling strong enough.
Oh, like so many of us do.
Right.
Well, I found it so remarkable. There is a chapter in this book that Scott wrote, that your husband wrote. Yeah. And I think one of the most beautiful pieces, this touches me every time I look at it, is just how much he loved you through this. Mm-hmm. And how much he worked on himself, reading, leadership books and how to think about things and not take things personal, which he really did. And I love what he wrote. He said, I saw her struggling with things that happened to her in this new relationship that I recognized as abusive. It was hard to witness. Mm-hmm. I remember her asking me if I thought she had too much eye contact with men, which is what you just described. I told her, no, that's not who she is. She's a kind, open-hearted woman, but not a flirt. In addition to dealing with losing her, it was hard to watch the woman I love become a shell of herself due to an abusive relationship she didn't understand. Yeah. And I think that shell just really nails how you feel, because you're afraid to trust your own behavior. Right. So I can imagine you're talking to somebody and then you're going, oh, I'm holding eye contact too long. I need to look away, or I need to look down, or I need to be disinterested and walk away. And that becomes a whole different person. That's not who you are. And that's not the professional out there making a deal.
Right. Exactly.
So you're so trapped.
Very trapped. And I think, if it weren't for people like Scott, and thank God we are back together, and all of that is wonderful, but also the kids in spirit. And I think that is amazing to me. When I actually sat back and looked at all of this, I couldn't believe that throughout the 3 years, if I really, go back in my mind, it was probably around 4 months into that relationship that one of the kids by the name of Jason came in.
Yes. And this was trying to, as you were fighting, you knew something was wrong in this new relationship. You knew you had to figure this out. Mm-hmm. But Jason came and talked to you.
He did. And he said, but he wasn't giving too much detail. He just said, this is not what it seems.
Wow.
That was it. That's all he could really say. And I thought, well, that's really interesting. But I just sort of pushed it like, no, it's great. Everything's wonderful, right? I'm doing the right thing. I'm making all the right moves.
On paper, everything's beautiful,
everything looks
perfect.
Great. And but it stuck in the back of my head. And I kept wondering, what's he talking about? What's he talking about? And then as the abuse ramped up and here I am stuck and can't get out and I'm trying to leave and can't get out, I was hearing from multiple kids that I've helped in the past in spirit. And so here I am helping them with their cases and helping pass messages to their parents and law enforcement. And then they turn around and help me. They were literally pulling me out practically at the end. They were saying, go get the restraining order now.
And it became more intense too, right? I mean, when Jason said now, you can't wait.
Yeah, he knew. Mm-hmm. Right. He knew. And do that, you need to do this. There's one extra step. You need to call this, particular police detective. And you need to have him call Tony, So it was really interesting to see how
and the names have been changed in the book.
Yes.
So Tony is not his real name.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the whole book is intense, and it's such a page turner, and you have so much wisdom. And I think one of the lessons that you teach people when you're giving presentations is how we can tap into our own intuition. So can you give us a tip about how we do this? And I think it's interesting to note too, when you moved from LA to Flagstaff, which you used your pendulum to help guide you, and then Scott's job also freed him up to be able to work from anywhere. Mm-hmm. And this was before COVID, when people were used to being able to work anywhere.
Yes.
And so you landed in this little mountain town of Flagstaff that you had not heard of before.
Nope.
But you talk about the difference in the atmosphere, like in LA, and you were in Burbank, and there were always sirens and city noises.
Right.
But then in Flagstaff, you were in the peace and the quiet. Yes. So does that all help when we're tapping into our intuition?
It does. It does, absolutely. And you're so right to pick up on that. So I think I needed that space I mean, literal space, right? We have just trees for days and mountains for days.
Arizona's
and I
known
needed
for
that.
its space.
Yeah, I needed that because Burbank was super crowded with energy, with people. You know, it's LA basically.
Sure.
So
high energy.
I think, you know, as far as tips for intuition, I do think that it's very helpful if you can even just take 5 minutes, right, out of your day just to sort of sit quietly.
So this doesn't have to be meditation.
No.
This can be a walk in the woods. It can be a jog around the block.
Exactly. And I honestly, I'm pretty ADHD, so I jump around a lot.
I think we all are admitting that these days.
Know, right? We probably all are, right, with the way that things are. So I know for me, meditation is very difficult, you know, to try and sit there and cross your legs and do this for an hour.
Keep your
very
mind
hard.
Focused.
But I did start to notice that, and this is one of the tips that I wanted to share. When I was starting to receive the information, I was in the garage. I was working on something. So my conscious brain was busy and my hands were busy. So when you're taking a shower, when you're driving, when you're doing something that you know, like in your own life, right, it's easy. It's something you do every day. That's when those messages come through. So if you have a great idea while you're driving, or you have a great idea while you're taking a walk, that's probably why.
It's so true. And it's also, I have to think that you're more relaxed. You're not like forcing yourself to think a certain thing or to solve a problem. But you sort of have told yourself that, boy, I'd like to figure this out. And I think I'll just let it go and go, run my errands or do whatever I need to do. And it is remarkable how you can start in that peace.
It is.
In that calm.
It is, yeah.
Fascinating. I also want to talk about you and Mark Pucci, the detective that we talked about earlier, have started this nonprofit organization to help families and help them with the costs of chasing down a cold case and bringing closure to an investigation.
Yes, thank you. So Mark came to me last November, so it's been about a year, and he said, I think it's time. And I knew exactly what he was talking about because we had talked about this years ago, right? And I said, we're going to work together under a bigger umbrella. It's not my nonprofit. It's something else. I don't know what it is, but it's coming. So he took it upon himself to say, it's time, let's do this. So it's called the National Institute for Law and Justice, and we're at nilj.org. And we see this need because cold cases go cold so quickly. And we don't have enough police detectives in the world, basically, to handle all of these. And so when a case goes cold, the families are left to either come up with the funds to pay an investigator, or there might not be anything else they can do.
And this isn't cheap.
It's not cheap. No, it's not cheap. So we thought
it's hard all the way around. It's hard emotionally, but it's also hard financially.
Exactly. So we basically said, you know what? Why don't we try to raise the funds for this? And we will help defray those costs for the families. And we'll open up a form. It's already open on our website, so you can go to nilj.org. And if you have a missing loved one that you need information on, if there's a homicide case that has a lot of holes in it, a lot of questions, and you want some more information, you can submit that case as well.
So tell me again the name. It's the
National
NILJ.
Yep, nilj.org, and it's the National Institute for Law and Justice.
Okay, fantastic. Well, I could talk to you all day long, but I want to ask you. Let's go in this present moment.
Yes.
What's going on in your life right now? So let's talk about your children's furniture.
Yes. Okay. So Mod Mom Furniture is still doing well.
Mod Mom Furniture.
Yes,
Love the
that's
name.
thank you. That's what I named it because I was like, well, I'm a modern mom, so I'll make that the name.
That's perfect.
But I have a manufacturer in Colorado
Right.
called Little Colorado who actually does all of that. So I don't have to build anymore. I don't have to, I'm not out there. I still have all my fingers.
I picture you with a tool belt.
Yes, I have one of those. So Mod Mom's doing really well. I am also doing a lot of work with an entrepreneurship organization called Moonshot, which Scott actually happens to head up, which is pretty incredible.
And that's helping entrepreneurs get to another level with marketing and business skills. Is that
all of it? Yes, we actually also help connect some of our entrepreneurs to funders and things like investors. That. So yeah, it's a statewide organization. It's a nonprofit. And it's pretty amazing because we're going into rural areas. We're going into, a lot of the indigenous nations as well and helping and
fantastic.
setting up
places
some
where networking is not readily available. And as we mentioned, Arizona is a huge state with a lot of space.
Yes.
So you're helping people connect with people that may not be in their neighborhood.
Exactly. And that's been incredible to watch. Scott has done an amazing job growing Moonshot. It started off in Flagstaff, and that was all it was, and now it's across all of Arizona.
It has really taken off and helped so many innovators and entrepreneurs. It's just really a remarkable program.
Yes, I love it.
So your children's furniture, are you still working with the Frank Lloyd Wright Foundation?
So I was tapped by them a couple years ago. It was right as the pandemic started, right? So right, and a lot of stuff.
So many stories start that way. Yes.
Right before the pandemic. So they came to me and basically asked for me to design and build a prototype of a table and chair set that was basically a mishmash of a Frank Lloyd Wright style and my style. So I did that.
Wow.
And it was incredible.
Unbelievable.
And then it didn't go any further than that, with everything happening with the pandemic, everything kind of
right
shifted.
Now, I think it's really important to talk about your courage and your perseverance, because you've had so many things that have been off the charts. Oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening to me. And then all of a sudden, the rug being pulled out from underneath you with Shark Tank, with this guy that seemed like the perfect guy.
Right.
And then with Frank Lloyd Wright and any number of projects that you've been all in and, no question about this is going to happen. So kudos to you, but your furniture line is still going strong.
Yeah,
and
still
Little
going
Colorado
strong.
is building it, and it's really sweet.
Yes.
I just love it.
Thank you.
Let's talk about your family. How's your
They're
family doing?
good. Thank you for asking. No, they're great. Scott is amazing. Just an
Scott
amazing
is
human.
amazing.
He's an
Can we
amazing
just
human
say
being.
that?
Yes.
Scott's in the studio.
He is. He's awesome.
Scott's
right
amazing.
there. Yeah, no, he is. He's a life partner, of mine, and I talk about soulmate. Right?
Oh,
he is
my gosh.
absolutely the
you
soulmate
can just feel
of my
that.
life.
If you believe in love stories, this book is a love story.
It's true.
I'm not going to get emotional, but it is so it's so beautiful to hear Scott's piece in here and how much he just loves you.
Yeah, I know, me too. And our kids are doing really well. Natalie and Grace,
and they've been through a lot too.
They've been through a lot,
moves, and
oh my gosh,
with all that was happening with you. What did they think when they found out that spirits were talking to you?
They were so little at the time, but I was really lucky in that, like our youngest daughter, Grace, she was very little, so I didn't go anywhere near that with her. But Natalie, our oldest daughter, she ended up seeing, I could tell she was seeing the same spirits that I was.
Wow.
And this was during my awakening. So it was actually kind of comforting. But I ended up telling her, because she's highly intuitive as well, so is Grace. And I said, you don't have to do this. Like, I personally know that this is in my life path and plan to do, but you don't have to have that if you don't want it. You can just say no. And so I do that a lot as well, with my own kids, but with other kids, is teach boundaries and how you can say, I don't want this. I don't want to have this, open connection, because it's scary a lot of times.
You won't be haunted if you choose to say, you know what, not for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so that's the path she chose. Our daughter, Grace, although she's Natalie is an amazing, amazing illustrator. Grace is an incredible singer-songwriter, and I could see all of her songs and all of the lyrics coming through, her intuitive channel.
And she sang at your book signing in Flagstaff.
She did. Yeah, we bawled.
So beautiful.
Oh my God. We were just, all of us were crying.
I just love how the whole family is involved and everybody is so supportive. Let's talk about your psychic abilities. So what's going on with that now?
So I am still working on cases. I'm still, actually we're sort of partnering with a lot of different organizations. One of them is up in Oregon called Safety Compass, and they work with a lot of survivors of trafficking. So, so I'm starting to kind of, it's interesting to see where the sources are all coming to now, where we're pulling cases from, but mainly the children still come to me. I can't conjure them. They just come in when they want to come in, and I pass the messages. Sometimes I just hold on to them until they tell me it's time to share them.
Is it happening more often on a more regular basis?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it has. It's been pretty busy lately with the book tour and all. So I think once all of that settles down, I will hear from even more of them. But no, thank you for asking. It's an incredible work. I feel very honored to do it. I also want to expand even more. I haven't had time really over the last 10 years to even dive into it on my own.
How many directions can you go?
Yeah, I can't. I found my limit.
Right.
But also with the book being out, we're in beginning talks of TV and film deals.
I
which is
read
pretty cool,
about
too.
that. Very exciting.
Yeah.
You are so authentic. I love little voices. Can't say enough good things about it. And I am so proud of you just personally. I'm just so excited. You waited 2 years, was it, to get this published?
Yeah, so I started writing it in 2017 and then finally got an agent in 2019. And then it took 2 years to sell. There's a whole story in the book about that and how I was being guided to the right publisher even. So I think so much about, my life has to do with getting back up again when you get knocked down and also just having patience, which is not easy.
It's not easy. And you were telling me this. Was it a tree that you kept seeing? Mm-hmm. Tell us the story.
So about a year before I actually got the book deal, my agent went through all of them. She had a list of 40. I think I ended up with 44 rejections. And
that's tough in itself.
Oh my gosh, right? Very. They were nice rejections, but pretty much they were saying
a rejection's a rejection.
Quite know how to sell this or where to put it because it's a mishmash. It's the complete me.
Right. Well,
so it's a
entrepreneurial
mishmash of a bunch of stuff. Yeah.
As well as spiritual.
Yes.
As well as relationships. And there's so many lessons, and that's why I just love this. If you get a chance to hear Kiersten speak in front of an audience, it's just really amazing, powerful stuff.
Thank you. I so appreciate that.
So your book sales are going well.
Yeah, book sales are going well.
And
I'm
we can
hearing
find
from
out.
People. It's pretty awesome.
We can find out where you are by going to your website.
Yep, KierstenHathcock.com. The book is available everywhere.
It
Books are
is
sold, and the audiobook as well, which was.
And that was your first time doing an audiobook.
Yes, it was. And it was an amazing experience.
I also have to believe this is a little bit therapeutic as well.
Absolutely.
To write a book like this and to understand it and to feel it and to read it and to hear your voice talking to you, coming back at you.
It was, and that was interesting when we were in the booth, the sound booth, and that's why I was saying it's amazing. When I was reading it and narrating it, each child was coming in. And everyone was crying. Scott's crying in the, back room with the audio engineer. He's like, I have chills. And he wasn't even really necessarily a believer.
So you can all feel it.
Doors are shutting on their own. A lot of strange stuff was happening with the audio. And it just meant, it was kind of like This Is Your Life. That old show where people come in like, it's your second grade teacher, Margaret. Right? It was like that, but it was the kids in spirit. And so it was very, very, very touching. It was very touching.
Oh, wow. Now, do we hear that in your voice or do you make a reference to it? Like right now, Jason is here talking to us or?
I didn't do that because it's
hard to go off script.
Yeah. And they wouldn't let me
because
it was Blackstone Publishing. So I had to read every single word exactly the way it's written.
Right.
And so we couldn't do that. But Scott and I actually did sit down with Nick Tantillo, and he's actually here in Phoenix. He's an amazing sound engineer who was contracted to do this. And we sat down and we talked about the behind the scenes stuff. So we share that. And if you go to KierstenHathcock.com, you can see where you can listen to that or download that audio.
I look forward to that.
It's a fun podcast.
That's a fairly new aspect to your project. Yeah. Okay, well, Kiersten Hathcock, I could talk to you all day. Entrepreneur, carpenter, medium, detective, author. Your story's incredible. Your talents are many. Your memoir is so impactful. Thank you so much for sharing with us and amplifying those little voices. And I am certain you are helping far more people than you will ever know.
Bonnie, thank you. Thank you for all of your support too over the years. You've just been amazing. Well, and I am just thrilled to know you.
Thank you. It is so easy to support a hero for children, a hero for women.
Now you're going to make me cry.
I know. We're both
I'm not a hero.
Thanks, Kiersten.
Thank you.
Again, Kiersten's book is Little Voices, How Kids in Spirit Helped a Reluctant Medium Escape and Heal from Abuse. It is published by Post Hill Press and distributed through Simon & Schuster, available on Amazon and many places like Target and Walmart. Kiersten also voiced the audiobook, as we just heard. You can find her at modmomfurniture.com. You can also find out her book tour schedule. And as you might imagine, I've written a couple of stories about her and her highly unusual life. Look for them in flagstaffbusinessnews.com. Little Voices is a fascinating read with chilling authenticity, and trust me, you won't be able to put it down. We can all feel inspired by Kiersten's story and pay more attention to our own intuition. And most definitely, if you feel like you are going down a rabbit hole, as she described, I strongly encourage you to pick up this book, Little Voices. You won't feel alone. You won't feel crazy. It will help you see clearly and help you figure out what you need to do. This is Zonie Living, Business, Adventure, and Leadership. I'm Bonnie Stevens.